This is Patriot Sentinel, where truth doesn't whisper, it roars. Hosted by Richard Tortorello, we're cutting through the noise to talk government, politics, fairness, the Constitution, community, and God. Stand up, speak out. The watch begins now.
Oklahoma parents, teachers, and school administrators all have one thing in common tonight. They are all watching what happens in the state superintendent race happening tomorrow. Dr. John Cox is on the ballots, and he's sitting right here with us. We have 30 minutes. Let's get into it. John, how are you doing?
Oh, doing great. Check the box for Cox.
Yeah, I love that. Is there a button? Do you have that already buttonized?
It should be. Yeah, if it's not, it should be. And hey, great time in Guthrie tonight. All kinds of people. All the candidates from every race are here. I've really got to know all of them. And I think that's just a pretty cool part of campaigning.
It is. Going out and meeting the constituents, meeting your fellow candidates, meeting other candidates too. I think it's always fun. And, you know, it's always, it's the candidates. I love meeting other candidates and Oklahomans. For those folks that are watching tonight, drop your comments in the box below. If you're a parent, teacher, or someone who just cares about education and Oklahoma kids, let us know right now. Let's go into the first question. I've asked this question before when you started this race, and others have asked in the middle of the race. But let me ask you now that we have, we're actually 24 hours away from the polls closing tomorrow night. What moment in your career made you decide the superintendent's office was where you needed to be?
Well, in 2012, there's a lot of chaos across Oklahoma and in the education, the State Department. And I just heard a lot of people complaining and griping. And my thing is I don't complain and gripe. I'm going to do something about it. And, I was naive at the time, and I thought, well, I'll jump both feet in and run for state superintendent.
Right.
Not knowing anything about what to do, but I traveled the state. And at that time in Cherokee County and where I grew up, I was actually originally a Republican because Mom and Dad were, and my dad was a Church of Christ preacher, and I lived in a conservative household. And so at 18, I registered Republican, and then I'd go to vote. Nobody's on there. And so when I became a superintendent in Cherokee County, actually to be involved, you had to be a Democrat because that was the last Democrat standhold. And really, I didn't study politics at the time, and I just knew that I had to be active. And, looking back, I wish I would have stayed Republican where my values are the entire time and just did it. If I would have, I would have beat Joy Hoffmeister back in 2014. And especially if she would have been the Democrat she is now. But when I see a problem, I don't complain about it. I just try to fix it. And, and that's what I'm doing now. Our last state superintendent, I believe everybody's in God's plan, and his plan was to tear it up and tear it down. And my job is to go in there and fix it and build it back up and just do great things for our children. That's what I believe.
Well, that's what a lot of people have been telling me behind the scenes. This is what and who they see in you, in your candidacy. And I think that's a great comment to have. So what's the one thing the current superintendent, I know, what did he get wrong that nobody's talking about?
The current one?
Yes.
Well,
the most current one, not the one that was appointed. Okay, Ryan Walters. Let's just go ahead.
Yeah.
What was the one thing that Ryan Walters got completely wrong that nobody wants to talk about?
I think really it's delivery. The similarities of our beliefs, those things can be talked about, but I think it's delivery. And I am a Christian, and I wouldn't want the Bible beat over my head and said, you have to read this and you have to do that. I think we put more focus on social issues than we did academics. There wasn't a blend. And so when I'm in there, I will make sure academics is a key element to what we're doing. And really, someone here said, I was talking to him about foundational math and phonics reading, and they said, you're just saying get back to the basics. They said, we love that. And they said that should be your slogan. And I said, well, it was my slogan until the past superintendent stole it from me. But I want, we say third grade's the magic year, and
Right.
really, truly, it's not. And so I want to emphasize all the way from pre-K through fifth, and those struggling readers that get out of third, go to fourth and fifth. I think we can really catch them up and get their skills concrete before they go to sixth grade. And then we can start looking at things. But foundational math excites me too, because I think a lot of classrooms you walk into and you go, what's 7 times 7? And they'll start using their fingers or they'll look for a calculator. I want them to automatically know it's 49 right out of their head. And I want them to know relationships between fractions and decimals and percents. And what does that mean? And once we get this true foundation of math, then we can go middle school and junior high and start saying, well, do you want to be a carpenter, or do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be an auto mechanic, a math teacher? All different types of maths. And then we can start working our direction to what that student is going to use the rest of their life. So important.
It is important. You mentioned third grade. I was following another candidate for governor around the state, and he had met with the Optometric Association several months ago, and it was Chip Keating, and he had mentioned that he would like to see all third graders tested for eyes. So when I was younger, I don't know about you, but they tested our eyesight. I think it was in third or fourth grade. I know Oklahoma doesn't do that, and I'm not sure if they ever did. So would you work with Governor Keating to work with the legislature to make it mandatory that all the schools test third graders' eyesight of their vision at least once?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. But we do that. We bring optometrists in, but it's more of a volunteer. But we actually have to turn that data into the State Department that we did the eye test and gave the results to the parent. And there would be a recommendation to the parent. Do they need glasses? Or do they not? Or do they just need to go get a checkup to further test how their eyes are? But dyslexia and dysgraphia are two of the major things. And we're getting more schooled on those things and being able to see that at an early age. And really what I tell people, first grade is really where they should be screened. And because you can really tell about them what's going to happen, and there's no stigma attached to staying back in first grade. When you get to third grade and you have to be held back, that child forever thinks that they're dumb or stupid. And so you have to be really careful about what you do, and it's per individual on if they should move on or not, because there's intellectual abilities to discuss. There's age when they're going to graduate high school, because I look and see, are they going to be 19 their senior year? And if that's true, they're probably not going to stay in school. And so I really look at those things. But my plan is to really work hard through fifth grade, because I feel like once we get to third, we go, okay, they're reading to learn. And I just don't think some are ready to do that yet. And so Rashard, we take a science test in fifth grade. And it's not really science, it's a state testing science, but it's a reading test actually, because it don't ask you science questions, it asks you how to read bars and things like that. So I want to move those out of the way and really get a good grip on where we're at. And these growth tests I've been talking about all across the state, they are in line to let us know at the end of the year exactly where that child is. These tests we're taking out at the end of the year for $25-30 million do absolutely no good for our kids.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So I'm excited about.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm excited about using that money, repurpose that 25 or 30 million to actually train our teachers and give them stipends to go get the training, pre-K through fifth grade teachers and special needs teachers. And if we get them training, give them a stipend, then we can have consistency across the state on everybody doing the same thing, because some schools think they're teaching phonics. In all reality, they're teaching some type of phonics. And I know that those teachers are hungry to learn more. My teachers, we go back and do training every year on science of reading just to refresh our skills. And they're the ones telling me and these are 25-year veterans. They're
Right.
saying, I want to find out what I can do more to help these kids. And that's how teachers are across the state.
You are a doctor, okay? Most people, in fact, everyone running for office are all career politicians, with the exception of one. But you've heard before, and we have lost video. John, are you still with us? All right, so we have John Cox with us for 30 minutes, and it seems like we lost video and audio. Um, I was going to ask him. There he is.
There we are.
So, hey, did your battery
It's
run out yet?
it's a magic of iPhone. If somebody tries to call me, I guess it takes the picture away, even though
Oh,
so
there's a function
yeah.
on your
So
iPhone in the upper right hand. You swipe it down, and it says "Do not disturb."
do not disturb.
Up in the right hand corner, just swipe down in the right hand corner. I love the iPhones, but it's a great tool. Just swipe it down and do not disturb. All right, so let's go back.
Okay.
So while you're looking, yeah, just hit like for the next hour, but be
Okay.
sure to turn it off, because unless you put your wife or any of your grandkids in the VIP part of the phone, it'll just go to voicemail for the next hour.
Well,
So,
my training, my doctorate is in educational administration,
right.
not the use of an iPhone like my little 3-year-old knows.
Yeah,
So
we get upgrades. I just give us my 5-year-old grandson. So let's go back.
yeah,
So I think 3/4 of your opponents are career politicians.
sure,
You and James Taylor are not, but you both
right.
ran for office at least once. Does that make you a career politician?
No, it makes me an educator that's wanting an education position, and purely as a superintendent and the training that he goes. And what I tell people, James Taylor, he seems like a really good person. His doctorate is in ministry, so that's his lane. My doctorate is in educational administration, and that's my lane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I bring value to that office. It's very difficult to be a superintendent, and if you're not trained to do that, there's no way in the world he would know what I do. I mean, unless you live it and do it, he cannot know what I do without actually being a superintendent. And
Absolutely.
and 5 of the other 6 cannot be hired anywhere in Oklahoma as a superintendent or principal because they
You know,
don't have the training.
well, look. I have to say, you are the one that's suited for the job. You do have the executive level experience, and you do have the teaching qualifications, and there's nothing wrong with the others, but we
No,
want somebody
no.
who's qualified to be sitting in that position. And you know what? We can the argument can be made they're all qualified. Yes, but who is the best one suited for the position? And my conversations, everyone has leaned towards your nomination, and hopefully you will take it tomorrow night. Let's go. We are with Dr. John Cox. He's running for state superintendent. If you have any questions, feel free to drop the comments down in the comment section. Dr. Cox, give me 3 specific things you would change in Oklahoma classrooms in the first 90 days.
Oh yeah. So first 90 days, we will actually start the training in phonics. And really, I'm going to rally the teachers. I think it's so important to change the environment to put
Mm-hmm.
those teachers on a pedestal, because if we don't do that, we're going to have teacher shortages. And I will go throughout the high schools and really honor our teachers so that students can go, wow, I might want to be a teacher, and really promote that and promote the environment. But this math and reading that I'm talking about is extremely important. And then if we're going to go from 50 to 25 in 2 years, I have to get after day one so that we can align the assessments together with the national assessments of educational progress. And so 90 days in, that's what we do. I think the environment totally switches when we're in there. We'll see a ramped up
Mm-hmm.
excitement. And so, yeah, the first 90 days is important, but it really has to show that we want to bring professional back to our profession,
Right.
and that's what I promote. And you know, our teachers out there should know that I have their back. And I think they'll immediately know that. But we have to have each other's backs. You know, in my school, we take care of each other. And that's why I have several teachers who have been with me over 25 years because they love to come to work. It's not a job, but they know it's something where they're going to help a child. And that's the environment we built over this time. And so there's thousands of things to do once we get in there. You know, even protecting our schools, shoring up the security, you know, more training at our schools so that we don't have security issues. But you know, and we still have to look, and I have to convince superintendents to walk over there and take the bad books out of the library that they have. You know, I have to convince them to go do that because that's what I do in my school. And we make sure that we don't have any books that I feel like is inappropriate for, say, a 13-year-old to be reading. If a parent wants them to do that, that's absolutely fine. With them, that's their judgment. But at school, we should be focused on reading and not reading fictional literature. So
I like that. Most parents would agree with you. In fact, a lot of parents would agree with you, Dr. Cox. Parental rights in education was a big thing coming out of COVID, and the school books were a big issue too as well. What is the line?
Transparency.
All they wanted was transparency, and they wanted to work with the teachers. They felt they were shut out of the schools, and so, you know, when parents have to go and start a whole movement on their own just to get back into their children's school, then we have a problem. But go back to parental rights in education. What is the line for you between parental input and school board authority? Because it goes back to the books.
Yeah, and so like the books, actually, the superintendent is, when he's hired, he has complete control of that school. And he can delegate authority to others to look at the books or order those. But I make it very clear that I do not have a job unless parents bring me their kids. And our teachers don't have the jobs either unless parents have children. So we work for them. And it has to be that way. And, you know, and sometimes we may not agree with the parent on just what we have to do because we have a certain expertise on how to do math or the precise way to teach reading. But bottom line is we work for them. And there should be no apology by a parent that wants to come in and check out what their child's doing. And I believe COVID really shined a light on a lot of things that we were doing in school. And every single thing that I do at my school needs to be able to be seen by a parent. There should be nothing hidden, no secret agendas, nothing. And purely for learning. That's all a student should come to school for, is to learn. And, you know, I think that's what we got to focus on. So, and we haven't focused on that in a while.
You're right about that. A lot of people would say the same thing too. You know, my parents, when I was in elementary school, my mother had to go get her teaching license or certificate from the state of Alaska, where my father was stationed at, just so she can come to class and come to school to keep an eye on me. So, you know, so I remember the days. Look, I've always loved seeing my parents at school, and as I got older and had my own kids, I love seeing my peers at school with their children too as well. Because, you know, when we were growing up, we didn't have all these issues. It seems like, you know, everybody worked in harmony. The teachers worked in harmony with parents, and it seemed like everyone knew everybody's kids and their issues. But going back to those days are gone. Rural schools, you know, a lot of folks out here in Norman, in East Norman, the rural school systems, they feel like they're left behind, and they're struggling. Sometimes they're struggling to keep their doors open. So what do you want to do for them that nobody else has proposed?
Okay, so really, I've lived the rural life, the rural school life, even when I grew up in Stillwell and Jay and the schools I've been at, Wyandotte and Jay and Locust Grove. Those are all rural schools, and they're a passion for mine. And somebody online yesterday just said he is not for rural schools, and so that hit me. So I don't get on there and respond very often, but I got on there and said I have been the president of the Oklahoma Rural Elementary Schools for 20 years, 21 years. And so I love our rural schools because basically we're community, we're family. We may fight with each other at times in there, but we want the best for a child. And really, family environment is really the best way to raise a child. And so that's kind of what I am. I think the problem is, and it was brought up there night in one of the forums, that I've had a 15% decline in enrollment. Well, if you look across the state, most rural schools have had a decline because there's been a movement to the bigger towns and bigger cities, or they go to virtual or homeschool. So it's out of our control, the decline. But when your student population declines, so does your money and your revenue, and the less you can do for the children. And so at some point, schools
Absolutely.
have to just make that decision. Are we able to do the best for our child and those children in this school? And that's when the consolidation issues, one of my opponents is saying, well, let's go to the county superintendent, but he doesn't realize that that was a failure back in when they did it in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. It just added one more layer of bureaucracy and one more salary. And so we've already been there, and I've already seen, we always come back. One of my famous sayings to myself is it soon shall pass. So when we come up with a gimmick, I know 3 years from now that gimmick's going to be gone. It's just like the new math that we have, and kids are taking that home to their parents, and the parents are freaking out because they don't know how to do that. They just know how to do the old math, and really the old math is the way we should be doing things. But
Absolutely.
some textbook company out there thought, hey, we'll make some money. Let's do a new math so we can sell it.
Well, fortunately for us, we've always had good minds for math. I can't imagine being a parent today trying to explain the new math. You'd have to go Google it and chat GPT it just to figure out how to, just to even understand it. For everyone joining right now, this is Dr. John Cox. He's running for State Superintendent. Stick around. We have a lot more to cover. John, what is your biggest disagreement with how education funding is currently being handled at the state level?
Well, actually, we have one of the best funding formulas in the nation. And, and probably with the children with disabilities, the weights that we have for those, and weights is simply you get a little bit more money for those children. And there's certain weights for different kids, for different disabilities. Those probably need to be increased because the costs have increased for paras, for special needs students. So that's something that needs to be looked at. And there needs to be a real study done on and this is controversial, but do we have enough money? And so my job as state superintendent is to find the purpose for the money and then see if our schools are well funded, or are schools just spending too much on administration or middle level administration bloat, or are they just wasting money? But I will tell you, in rural small schools, we can't afford to waste money or we'll be gone. And so every penny is accounted for. If we hire one or two teachers too many, after 2 or 3 years, that salary is going to take us under. So we have to be really good at what we do.
Got it. What let's go back to the two words that a lot of people dislike, and depending on the aisle that you're on. So teachers unions. What do the teacher unions get right, and what do they get wrong?
Well, and my job as state superintendent is to lead the teachers. So the teachers within the unions, those are the ones I'm leading. And there are some really good teachers in the unions that they're not really sure what their purpose is. They're young and they move right in there with him. I think after we saw the initiative this week at OEA, it's become more about social issues, and I want to move it more back towards learning and how to do math and reading, and let social issues stay at home, and let parents make up their mind how they want to influence their children with social issues, and not make that an issue at school. Let's just use schools for kids to come and be safe and learn about what's going to help them be productive someday. I think you get lost in the weeds when you start looking at all the gender issues and all those things, and we just need to refocus back to learning. And it's everyone's right to make up their own mind on what they do, but It doesn't mean I agree with them, but it's not my job to promote either way. It's my job to get the best we can out of a child so they can be successful someday.
Absolutely. Can you tell us about a student or teacher who changed how you think about education?
You know, and this is really sad, okay? So 16 years ago, there's a law now where we have to have two people at our school that are trained in CPR. And that came from our school. And, it's really hard for me to talk about, but it's part of me. It's ingrained in me. And sometimes you get feeling pretty good about yourself. But on that day, um, you know how we love the old bread that you have at school, the
Mm-hmm.
ones you could squish and then you'd eat it and then drink with milk. We lost a child that day because of that. And we had all the proper people in place, everybody who knew CPR, everybody who knew all those things, but we could not save that child. And that's when it really hit me. I mean, because that's a turning point in your life, because those
Mm-hmm.
parents were gracious to me. They were fantastic to me, and they knew we did everything we could do. I had them there. We called them, had them there right in the middle of what everything we were doing. We life flighted him, and he is ever ingrained into me. And we actually have a little monument out in the front of the school, so I see it every day when I go to school for the last 16, 17 years. But I learned that day, my job is about the life of a child, not just the child coming and I'm keeping them safe, but I have to take care of that child so the parent can see that child when they come home.
Right.
And I'm telling you, from that day on, it just made a new person out of me. And because I still see that little boy, that little third grader, because he's in third grade, I still see him in front of the school waving at me in the morning, because that's kind of child he was. And just a good, precious child. And so those experiences coming into the state superintendent really makes me know why I'm doing the job I'm doing. And if it doesn't change a person, there's something wrong with that person. Because I know the true meaning of keeping a child safe and what that means, what my responsibility is. And so I live every day with that memory, but the parents were so good to me. And actually they had another child after that, and they brought that child back to us to educate. And in my mind, I'm going, that I just can't wrap my head around that, because that means so much trust in us,
That
so
means so much trust in you, Dr. Cox.
well,
It's in you
we're a
and the
family.
system.
We're a family, and
Mm.
they didn't hesitate. So, and I don't tell that story very often because it really brings some strong emotions out inside me, but that's who I am, so um that's that's why I want so bad for our schools to be the best that they can for those Dustins of the world, so they can be safe and they can be anybody they want to be. And I
Well,
know that's a strong story, but
it's a good story
that's
though,
that's what comes out of you.
because
That's why this is
everybody
so
has
important.
well, look, everybody who rises to the level that you're at right now, and hopefully by the end of by tomorrow night we'll know for sure. But everybody I know in every industry, in every life, who has risen to this level has had a story like that. Not a child, but it could have been a
Yeah,
coworker, could have
yeah,
been your fire military. We all and things like that change who we are, and it changed how we looked at life and how we look going
yeah.
forward. And so, you know, thank you for sharing. I know it's hard to share it.
That was very hard.
But I would
Yeah,
like, what people need to know, that you will treat their children as if they were your own flesh and blood. And
yeah,
that's not a talking point. I just, I look at all the other candidates, and I look, they're fine candidates. They're all, even the Democrats have fine candidates, but but this story really moved me, and I'm pretty sure it will move other people when they hear it in the replay.
Yeah.
Tomorrow night, less than 23 hours, the polls close. I hope you're hitting the ground tomorrow. You don't stop campaigning. Make those last minute phone calls tonight,
Oh yeah.
and have your
Yeah.
teams make those last minute phone calls tonight and through the day. Don't stop until 7 o'clock.
That's right.
What happens, win, lose, or draw tomorrow? Um, I'm looking forward to seeing you doing great things. I'm there with
Thank
you.
you.
I've got your back. What's this is your last 2 minutes here.
Yeah.
Tell the viewers, the listeners, who you are and why it's so important they get out the vote and they go and check that box for Cox.
Absolutely. This is a generational change. It's a generational election. My grandkids are going to be affected by who gets in there. And not just my grandkids, but their grandkids, because
Right.
whatever I do the next 8 years is going to make the biggest impact. And my goal is to be the best state superintendent we've ever had and move the needle. And it's not done just by John Cox. It's done by people that are around me that we have confidence in. And so if you want to move the needle, if you want to make our public schools better, if you love school choice and you want public schools to become the choice, then put me in there. And I've already proclaimed the blessing before it happens, and that I will be in there. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to have confidence that I'm favored and that we will be in there. And with that power, we will take care of what we need to do to help every child across this state. And man, that's just powerful. So go tomorrow, check the box for Cox, fill it in to win, and we're gonna make it. We're gonna make a difference for all our children, especially our beloved special needs children. I want to do some special things for them. To change use their IEPs as their gauge of growth. So that's what I want to do. We know what needs to be done, and we can do it. I am so excited about January coming.
Well, there you have it, folks, listeners. This has been 30 Minutes with Dr. John Cox, candidate for State Superintendent. Check your ballot tomorrow. Find his name. Go vote. Share this video with anybody who needs to see it tonight. We're trying to beat the Facebook algorithm for conservative content. So comment, share, and tag. Comment, share, and tag. I love seeing these things. Sherry Conley supports you, so I support you too. So if you guys want to see change in Oklahoma school system, it starts by getting out to vote, knowing the candidates.
Yes.
And I think we've done a great job of getting all the candidates on this platform so you can hear about what they have to say and what their plans are. But as always, there's always one candidate that just rises above the rest. And John Cox is that candidate. And John, I want to thank you for coming on tonight, and good luck tomorrow. We'll be watching you in the polls, and good luck at your watch party tomorrow night, probably in Tulsa, correct?
Tahlequah.
Up north. In Tahlequah.
We're gonna have it. We're gonna have it in Tahlequah.
How far of a drive is that from Norman?
That is 3 hours from Norman.
I hope you have a camera in place. Have a camera in place.
Oh, we will. I fully expect
you,
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, anyways, John, thank you and good luck tomorrow. We'll see you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.